Happy Thursday and welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. It's a big day around here. We have an event coming up later. And so with that in mind, it's not Thursday, it's Wednesday. We're pre-taping this. Yep. It's a time flip, not unlike things that happen in Doctor Who. We have our event coming up tonight, 3 o'clock LA time. That is 6 o'clock New York time and many other times all over the world, which you will figure out.
Keep adding an hour as you go east.
Noon, Hawaii.
You hit a certain point and then it's like the next day. I don't know.
And you guys should definitely please do tune into that. We are currently in the real world reality scrambling to make that thing happen. By 3 o'clock, it's going to be an awesome show.
But in this future, everything's ready and great.
It's going to be so wonderful and awesome. So what we're going to talk about today is one of our favorite shows that we do, which is The Best Movies You've Never Seen, volume, I believe, 4. That Billy just waved at me off screen.
Nice.
Volume 4, which I love this show because I always learn about movies that I'd like to see, or we talk about movies that we love. So let's kick it off. Dan, what are you recommending today?
This is a movie that came out in the mid-2000s. It got Academy Award nominations for its leads, and it features my favorite performance by Judi Dench, which I know is a weird thing to say. She has so many great performances. This one is my favorite of hers. It's a movie called Notes on a Scandal. It's a small movie, didn't make a huge box office splash, but it stars Cate Blanchett. She is a teacher at a high school, and she is caught by Judi Dench's character having an affair with a student, an underage student, which of course is a big no-no. It causes a huge uproar, and Judi Dench is this older teacher. She's nearing retirement age, and she's, at first you kind of see her as like this just kind of very sad, lonely woman. She has her diary, which she writes down, you know, the day's events and her thoughts and everything, and that's kind of her only confidant. And as the movie goes on, and as she kind of is insinuated more into Cate Blanchett's life, and obviously she has this knowledge, and now is it going to be public? Is she going to tell somebody? You start peeling back those layers, and you learn more about Judi Dench, and there are hidden facets to her that are a little more sinister and a little more menacing than perhaps you had thought at first. I think it's two great performances. Cate Blanchett is just this woman who is unhappy in life for a variety of reasons. She's overwhelmed. She, makes some horrible mistakes and ends up confiding in the worst possible person, and it's all about the reaction to that and how these two characters play off of each other, and I think ultimately just a chilling performance from Judi Dench, and a really, really strong movie, one that I liked a lot, deservedly got a lot of awards praise, but I think it's small enough that it made a splash the year that it came out, but might be one that since then has flown under the radar. Can't recommend it enough. Notes on a Scandal.
Yeah, have you guys seen it?
Yes.
No. It's a great movie. I agree with you, Dan. It is beautiful. I love that film. But it's also, it weirdly reminded me, and tell me if this is totally out of left field, of kind of Monica Lewinsky and
Bill Clinton.
No.
Linda Tripp.
Linda Tripp, in the sense that this is a person that clearly is doing something that is just completely ethically flawed.
Yeah, there's no other side.
There's no other side to it. But you also is a person who's making a very human mistake and then goes to confide in what should be a friend, and that person just wants to use the information to manipulate them and manipulate the situation. In this case, for Judi Dench, she's just manipulating out of a deep, profound loneliness. It's really a sick relationship and fascinating.
In my really weird film festival that nobody would ever come to, I would pair this film with The Cable Guy. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It has some weird thematic elements that are shared with The Cable Guy. So this would be the weirdest double feature in the world. But it's like The Cable Guy if it starred Judi Dench and was way more serious.
That's a great analogy.
Throw compliance on there. You got a film fest. Yeah. That's a film fest.
Now, compliance, I feel like, is way more about the human willingness to submit to authority when it makes zero sense to do that at all. It's a good movie, though.
Yeah.
Joe, did you like that one? Notes on a Scandal?
I did. I think what you said is spot on. Her Judi Dench's sort of arc. There's never a moment where I think a lot of movies would give you that one scene where you're like, wait a minute, she's not just sad, she's evil too. Like, I don't know, she'd open her weird death room or some really broad stuff like that. But the slow burn from Cat Lady to like just really, really intensely sinister.
Well, that's
is,
true of cat ladies in general.
Yeah, no,
Hey!
absolutely, 100%. 100%.
I mean, come on.
Scrunchy face and I disagree.
It is
have
very, very true of Cat.
You got 2 cats, sir.
You're a spy and a murderer. We know you are. Her performance in that movie is really, really incredible. Totally worth watching.
Yeah. Check it out.
What are you recommending, Joseph?
I'm going to recommend, I think we all sent a few choices. I'm going to assume it was my first choice on my list, and then the poster will go up and I'll either be right or wrong. Yeah, Your Name! I am recommending Your Name. It's a kind of a more recent movie. It premiered here in LA through Funimation at the anime convention here, actually. It did huge numbers in Japan. It actually topped Spirited Away as one of the all-time domestic earners in Japan, and it is the first animated feature there not directed by Miyazaki to really sort of top the box office. It's a really, really sweet movie. It's about 2 high school students that don't know each other. They live kind of a country apart. One is a boy. He's in the city. Then the girl who lives in the country, and at night when they go to sleep, they slowly start to realize that they're switching bodies. And it starts as a very, very sweet, kind of fun coming-of-age rom-com, and then, without getting into it and spoiling it a lot, takes some really, really cool twists and turns. It's a really sweet movie. It's a really sad movie. About the halfway point, I stood up and yelled "No" at the movie, which is always a nice sign that you're invested in
not
what's
at
going
all
on.
invested.
Oh no, it wasn't a no
I've done
more
that
movie.
to other movies for different reasons.
Yeah, it wasn't a no more movie. It was a why would you do that to me movie. It's really great. I would highly suggest seeing this before Paramount and J.J. Abrams do a live action Western remake, which. Just watch this one and watch it enough that Paramount just decides to give this version a wide release instead of remaking it, because it's great.
Beautiful. Did you guys see it?
I have not seen Your Name. Really, overseas animation in general, not just from Japan, but from any country, I am woefully uneducated and not exposed to. So that I need to broaden my horizons, and this is the name that Your Name is the one that comes up a lot, particularly recently when I've sort of solicited opinions. So I need to expand my horizons, and this would probably be near the top of my list.
I have it on Blu-ray, sir, and I will bring it to you.
It's really, really good.
It's really great. This is one I also think Spencer would love. Did you get a chance
I've
to see it?
seen about a third of it.
Oh, then maybe I am wrong on
late
that.
at night, fell asleep.
Okay.
But I not because I was bored or uninterested. It was just late, and I was tired. But it was beautiful, and definitely something I can see myself watching the other 2/3 of.
Yeah, this was a movie that when we did our top 10...
There's so many great poster quotes already.
I want us to do honest full quotes officially and just make the posters, because you would love it. You will love it.
I was loving it.
Yes.
I was tired.
It's right up your alley.
I was lying down when I turned it on. I didn't last.
That's fair. It's also maybe not an action-packed, although there's a couple of sequences that are a little bit action-packed. It is such a cool twist on the body switch, and it's hard to say where it really goes to a new level without spoiling anything. In terms of, you talked about the Spencer in the final form. Essentially, the final form in Your Name is yourself. What are you recommending? I know what you are because we fought over it. We did rock, paper, scissors.
We Rochambeau'd for it. You let me have it. We'd all maybe like to have children of our own one day, but we don't want them to grow up normal, do we?
No.
We
definitely
want to
not.
screw them up just the right
Yeah.
amount. And for that, I recommend the French film City of Lost Children by Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Junot.
Excuse me.
I don't know.
Who went on
That's
to make
how I say it.
Amélie, and this is a for all intents and purposes, a children's movie that received an R rating here when it was released domestically. It's dark. This is a dystopian steampunk, unnamed, I mean, I guess it's French because everyone's speaking French, but French canal town by the docks. And it's all full of like these kind of Dickensian orphans, and all the grown-ups are kind of like mutated and evil, and all the kids are stealing, and all the grown-ups are exploiting. And it's just one of the all-time great messed up kids movies. The plot, to the extent that there is about this prematurely aging mad scientist who can't dream, so he's kidnapping children and stealing their dreams, sucking the dreams out of them, thanks to his brother who's a brain in a vat. And I think it's like their kids or their clones or something. There's 6 identical clones who are like his henchmen. On the other side, the protagonist is Ron Perlman in a French movie, as a circus strongman who doesn't have to speak much, and conveniently, and a little girl who are out to rescue her brother from this weird old man child. And the plot, such as there is it's really French. There's a lot of talk about dreams and nightmares and reality and stuff like that. But just on a visual level, this movie is like on par with anything Guillermo del Toro's ever made, anything Tim Burton's ever made, any kind of like goth steampunk aesthetic that you might be into. This is just like the coolest example of it, shot for shot. There's so much inventiveness in it and so much creativity, practical makeup, practical effects, a little bit of digital, and some like, you automatically have compassion for children in harm's way. So just the overall experience is like, wow, this is dark, and wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, I love the Jean. I don't know which pronunciation is correct. You guys will tell me, I'm sure. But Jean Genet, he's one of my favorite directors. He also did Delicatessen, and most people do know him for Amélie.
This is very different from Amélie.
This is very, very. It's very different from Amélie in terms of the tone, but not in terms of the inventiveness and the imagination. Sure. What he does is he visually expresses the way that we might feel in a moment. And he does that in Amélie too, even just in that shot where she turns to water. You know, we've all felt that way, and he just expresses it visually because he's French and they know how to do those things. And in this movie, I remember watching this movie, I was pretty young too, and which probably explains a lot. And there's this shot just of her, the young girl, and it's looking down directly at her. And it was just one of those moments that you're so blown away by filmmaking and what it can do, and how weird it is. Also, it makes a little bit of sense because REM sleep is largely, responsible for and necessary to overall health and wellness. So
if you can't, you turn into like a gnarled Frankenstein.
With a brain
monster. Yeah. This is such a good movie. Have you guys seen?
I have not.
Delicatessen?
It is a great movie that I have not seen.
This is I feel like when the original team was gonna pitch BioShock, the video game, they sat everyone down they were pitching BioShock to and had them watch City of Lost Children.
When you said that, I thought that. For some reason, my brain went to Biodome when you said that, and I was like, "No, Joe, it's not Biodome."
Oh no, that's what I meant.
Okay, good.
It is a lot like Pauly Shore's Biodome in that. But no, that's because I played the first BioShock and then saw this movie, and I was like, oh yeah, whether they knew it or not, somebody.
Yeah, it is very like seaborn and full of drugged out, scrangly looking French people, and if you like Terry Gilliam, if you like Del Toro, if you like stuff like that, this is right up your alley.
Those are good recommendation like names. Yeah. So have you seen the other? You've seen Amélie, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've not seen Delicatessen, but I've seen Amélie.
I feel like Delicatessen is the one that people always call out as it's great, as his best. I have a soft spot for City of Lost Children, but I think it's just when you things imprint on you when you're young, and they inform how you feel later, which brings us to my recommendation.
Why I love The Golden Child so much.
Yes. Well, come on. It's why everybody still loves, whatever movie they saw when they were young that we watch
I think
again
all
now.
of pop culture today is based on things we were exposed to as children.
But even in your top 10 movies, they're all things that I learned to love really early. Do you find that?
No, Network's in my top 10. That's
Me
one
too.
that came too late. I saw that when I was an adult.
Mine's
It's a mix.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
like a
mix.
mix now for me.
saw a
Like
lot
Jaws is definitely an early
Yeah.
one for me.
Really
I know
inappropriate
Blues Brothers
movies.
is still in my top 10.
Well, yeah, I mean your brain is mush from 3 to 23, so anything you get in that zone has a better chance of sinking in, just because you're not as full of scar tissue and jadedness
And pain.
Yeah.
Hey man, Rules of Attraction is a great movie.
I don't know.
man.
I feel like I was full of pain by 4.
Well, there. Okay.
You know.
When
Nothing
you saw
could quite
City of Lost
stick.
Children.
Yeah, and that's well. I feel like what is revealed to me in these conversations is just how inappropriate my childhood was, and that there were no boundaries. Good.
is fair.
Heavenly Creatures is about a murder.
There it is.
This is from Peter Jackson. It is, and you're all going to be very upset with me, but again, I think because I saw it very young, I think maybe my favorite movie of his, which, yes, it is not as epic in scale as The Lord of the Rings, but it is a really interesting character study about 2 young women. This is the on-screen debut of Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky, and who you might know from Sweet Home Alabama. I'm just kidding. And it's about a murder that took place in 1954 between two teen girls, who one is sort of from the lower echelon of society, and Kate Winslet is from the upper echelon of society in New Zealand, and they befriend each other. They're both very lonely, kind of weird girls who live in their imaginations and become very, very enmeshed with one another. Whether any of the impulses are sexual or not is unclear. It doesn't really matter because the depth of attachment is so profound, but to a dangerous degree, where the parents are kind of like, this is weird, because they live so much in their imaginations and they create these worlds together. And he visually depicts that with like weird stone monsters and castles and these fantasies. Like, they cannot distinguish between reality and fantasy at all. And so one of the girls has a very combative relationship, Pauline Parker, with her mother, and they are threatened with separation. And when you're that age, everything is so heightened. Everything feels like it's going to last forever. Everything feels so permanent. It's not. The thought of separation is so anathema to them. Yeah.
Nice
thank
word.
You. No.
SATs right there.
Yeah.
Very pleased with that.
I don't get a lot, Dan. I mostly don't make sense. I think we all know that. If I can nail one, yay me. So to them, that they actually end up murdering her mother. And so it's about that, and that none of this ruins the movie because it's not about the plot. It's about the unfolding of this relationship. And it's one of these things that captures something really dark but very true about adolescence. And I just think it's a beautiful film. It's an upsetting film. It is a tragic film because ultimately the very thing that they're fighting against is what they bring to themselves with their actions. And what's more human than that?
Awesome.
You guys seen it?
Yes.
No. Yes.
A lot.
Oh, good.
Wow.
A while back, but I actually hadn't thought about that movie for a long time until I saw Let's Bring the Room Down, the documentary about the girls in the Mothman
Yeah,
killing.
yeah.
The like girls that sort of fed off of each other and then stabbed their friend.
Yes.
And I was like, oh,
Slender Man?
Yes.
Slenderman. I'm
Slenderman.
sorry. Sorry, I got my
Mothman Chronicles.
crazies mixed up, man.
I was thinking Richard Gere. I was like,
Yeah, no. Sorry, Mothman is part of the Deep State. Slenderman is part of 4chan.
Yes.
Yeah, the Slenderman doc is when I was like, oh, that is very Heavenly-esque.
Yeah.
I have a doc to recommend that is very similar to what you mentioned. It's called Mommy, Dead and Dearest, and it's on HBO. And holy shit. That's all I'll say about it.
Okay.
Just
Mommy,
watch
Dead
that.
and
It's
Dearest,
very
yeah.
similar to what you
Also,
said,
yeah.
but in real life.
Yeah, that was the pitch you gave me, and after I watched it, I think I passed that chain letter recommendation on to someone else.
is it a curse?
It's a bonus one.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the first 5 minutes have enough like twists and like what moments that to even get into any plot, except that it roughly is the outline of 2 people who killed a mom, perhaps for reasons.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's, to your point, I thought of that Heavenly Creatures when I watched the Slenderman doc as well. And there's a handful of cases like this where young girls are in a 3-way friendship, say, and ultimately end up either attempting to or murdering one of the third girls. And there is something profoundly tragic and real about that. Like, very few people would go to that level, but you get if you think about your childhood, you get where that impulse for cruelty is just there. I don't know why, but it's just there. Dan?
Can't fix this.
Do you like the movie,
I've
Dan?
never had an impulse for cruelty.
No, I mean, but you see how little kids do have an impulse for cruelty to one another. You
They
know?
can, I think. I think it's all
Yeah.
about, there's so many X factors, and this is a great picture of two adolescents and sort of.
Because they love each other.
Right. And I think there is that. I think most people, I think, have had a friend like that where you just sort of feed off of each other, and like you know, whichever way one of you goes, then the other one's going to go that way, and it just kind of goes like that. Usually it's like, you know, for me it was like I love Batman, and then because of that my best friend started loving Batman, and then we both love Batman. That's the innocent version of it. And then you have this movie.
Sometimes you start a cult.
Sometimes you start a cult.
Yeah.
Sometimes you love Batman. That's just how it goes.
Is there a difference?
Not anymore. There used to be. But yeah, no, it's I think a lot of people that probably only know Peter Jackson or started knowing Peter Jackson, this isn't a slam. This is a lot of people with Lord of the Rings don't know that he was started out as a filmmaker of very limited means, in the sense of like, you know, you look at
Made some
like
cool
Dead
stuff.
Alive and this movie and even the Frighteners, which was a very kind of toward the front end of the technology of the time, and it did a lot with very creatively using CG and makeup and combining, and you know, even though the movie itself wasn't a huge hit, I think that's why so many people were kind of. I remember when The Lovely Bones was coming out, so many people were like, I can't wait. This is a return to this," and it ended up not being that. But it's a direction I'd like to see Peter Jackson return to, is sort of going to these smaller movies.
It
He
was
can
a
do
heck of
both,
a jump.
but you know, it's a huge jump.
I mean,
that
he went
made.
for more of like a Sam Raimi sort of Evil Dead, where throwing skeletons at you from out of frame, to huge epic scope.
Yeah.
You know, fantastical war movie. It was just such a huge jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think one of the things, like what the movie captures, is a desire to belong, and if you find a place that's so present, especially when you're young, because you just don't feel safe if you don't belong anywhere, and so when you find it, the idea of it being taken away from you is just terrifying. You'll almost do anything to continue to belong to the peer group, and it takes a lot to be the person that's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no, we don't need to connect. I can have my own identity.
I thought of this movie a lot.
Plus, The Frighteners is really cool.
Yeah, The Frighteners is cool. You should check it. It's just on an aesthetic level. It's really cool.
Yeah.
On night 2 of my weird film festival that nobody would ever attend, I would pair this movie with Thoroughbreds.
Yes.
Again, two very different movies that have similar themes. And if you liked Thoroughbreds, then I think you will also really like this movie.
I think you're totally
Throw Ghost
right.
World in there. Am I getting the vibe of this
Kind of
film
like
festival night 2?
yeah, Ghost World, less murdery.
Yeah.
And they do find their own. They do establish their own. Actually, that's the antidote to it, because each one of those girls is willing to commit to their individual identity, whether you agree with one or the other. They do, and they split. But yeah,
Okay.
I would put that in there.
All right.
I would put that in
I'm in.
there a lot.
I like this very
What's your
screwed up
favorite
film
Peter
festival we've
Jackson
created.
movie?
Yeah, this is the most depressing film festival of all time.
No, it's fun. I like it.
I really like his weird zombie stuff. The all-time weirdest Peter Jackson scene is still a priest jumping down in the middle of a graveyard to protect someone from a zombie and yelling, "I kick ass for the Lord," and then fighting them. And that's the guy that made the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So
Which again, I get that it's a masterpiece, but just on an individual level, like I love this movie. I love that it exists, and I think that it was telling this kind of story before other people really were. Spencer, what's your favorite Peter Jackson movie?
Oh, how can I pick just one? The Lord of the Rings, the second one, with the 2 towers in it. To be honest, I haven't seen very much of his other work, if at all. I'd probably be surprised that he did direct those things if I looked at his IMDb. I just know him for the Hobbitses and the lords.
The Hobbit Eye. Yeah, I hope he
Some good
returns
stuff
to
back
that
there.
form too. But check it out. I think you'd actually like a lot of those movies.
Also, Two Towers is the best
Yes.
Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah.
So
Disagree. I think it's Fellowship, but it's for another day.
All right, we can make it about today, but let's not. We're gonna go do an event.
Yes.
You guys, we're gonna spend the rest of today, which is Thursday and Wednesday, respectively, doing this event. Both those things are true, so we're very excited to see you again at 3 o'clock today. What fight are you looking forward to?
Oh God, I think Emma Fife is pretty worked up about this anime fight with Erika Ishii. I think that's going to be a pretty big war, and Jackie Coley, Dan Casey, and Hector Navarro shouting at each other.
Yeah. What about you, Spencer?
Puppets.
Puppets!
Puppets.
Me too.
Yeah.
Anytime Leonard Maltin is in the building, you know
Yes.
I'm gonna want to see that fight. So
Yeah.
obviously, Alicia Malone, Leonard Maltin, Jesse Maltin.
Yeah.
That is gonna be a great fight, and I look forward to seeing that one.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be fun. Leonard's going to be here. We may talk to him a little bit outside of that. You never know.
love to.
You never know. The Maltons are going to be in the house. House Malton representing in the same event that two puppets will go at it.
Now
so
our watch begins.
that is our promise to you, both Leonard Malton and puppets.
House Maltin would be like the like they would be next door to, I think, the Tyrells. Like they would just be the theater critics of Westeros.
Yeah,
Yes.
no,
House
absolutely.
Maltin, but they could kick your ass.
That's how I'm crediting Jessie, House Malton.
House Maltin.
In her, that's what her lower third is going to read.
Good.
But that's the Screen Junkies way. We are both Malton and puppet friendly because we love it all.
Yep.
And we love you guys. Thank you so much for your support along the way. Please do tune in today and let us know some of your favorite movies that we may not have seen in the comments below. We'll see you on Friday
Yeah.
in the same place.